Garden Care A to Z is brought to you by Effecto.
Welcome to Garden Care A to Z. My name is Bimray. Today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite flower. Men buy them when they're in trouble. Women love receiving them. Of course, we're talking about roses. Now, we're at a garden center in the north of Johannesburg. We're chatting to Sue, the horticulturist, who's going to be telling us exactly what we need to know about roses. When we walk into a garden center and we want to buy roses, what different kinds of roses should we be looking out for?
Well, first of all, you need to know what your requirements are, because you get two main categories of roses.
Okay.
You would get Floribundas and you would get Hybrid-Ts.
Now, which of those two would I need to buy if I was looking for a cutting rose?
If you wanted a cutting rose, you would go for your Hybrid-Ts.
Okay.
They make bigger blooms and they've got long, slender stems, so they're ideal for cutting, but not necessarily to make a show in your garden.
Okay, then the Floribunda, how do we handle that? Is that for the show?
A Floribunda is a garden show rose. Obviously, you can pick it as well, put it in the vase, but you won't get those long stems with the big blooms. They're going to give you an abundance of flowers in your garden so that you can make a great show out of it.
So the tall iceberg type roses, what kind of rose are they?
Those are Floribunda roses, but that actually doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're tall. Most hybrid roses are grafted roses, and the reason they do that is because hybrid roses naturally wouldn't have a strong enough root system to sustain the plant for a long period of time. So even though it's a bush rose, it would also be grafted. Now you can have a look at this. You'll see this is a bush rose, and you'll see it's grafted there onto the dark rose root system. So actually the roots of the plant is a different type of rose.
Did you just call the base or the stock of the plant a dog rose?
The root stock is called a dog rose. So this part of the rose up to the roots would also be a dog rose.
Okay.
And then it's a standard rose or a tall rose would just be grafted at a different level.
What sort of time of the year do they flower and for how long?
Well, you know, your Floribunda roses obviously flower for longer than your Hybrid-T roses.
Okay.
Usually you would get about 3 flowering periods in your roses, abundant periods. Your first one being sort of middle spring, October, when you would get your first flowering.
Okay.
Then usually you would cut your roses back a little bit. You would get a second flowering in about January, and then if you look after your roses very well, you might get another flowering around end of March, April.
Fantastic. Climatic conditions, are they widely adapted? Can we grow them anywhere?
Yes, mostly you can. What roses prefer though is sort of drier conditions, because you get less fungal infections. They don't like their roots to be wet, so you need well-drained soil. Yes, you need well-drained soil for your roses. And as I say, sort of a drier climate is preferable because it would reduce your fungal infections. A place like Bloemfontein, for instance. That's why it's called the City of Roses.
Exactly. Fantastic. Sue, thank you so much for all that information. But now we're going to go and plant a rose, and we're going to give you even more hints and tips on how to get the best out of your roses. So to plant our rose, we've dug a hole. The size of the hole is quite important. It's got to be large enough to allow us to get nice aerated soil around the plant. The preparation of the soil that goes back into the hole is of huge importance. This is going to really give the rose a great start. We work phosphates into the soil because phosphates don't translocate very easily. So it's quite important to have it immediately available, work it into the soil that goes back into the hole. Planting depth is very important. You want to make sure that when planting, the level that was in the original bag is at the same level of the existing soil. The final steps in planting, we're going to give a nice top dressing of 2,3,4, which is a fertilizer specially blended for newly established plants. It also helps with aeration in the soil. Water really, really well. feed your roses, use 815. It's a particular blend for rose and flower. So that was it for roses. Please join us again for more hints and tips on the next Garden Care A to Z.
Garden Care A to Z is brought to you by Effecto.